Hello, 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 hello. Hi! Hey everyone. Put in some music. Oh my god, that's loud. How are y'all? You doing well? Power School says I'm an older animator having worked on BTAS and Animaniacs in my youth, looking to start back. That is sick. I love it. This is my first stream. Can you hear me alright? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. And if the music isn't too loud or whatever. Oh, great. Great. I figured out this mic that I have that is it's like something you'd use to record animals, but I'm using to record myself because I guess I am an animal. So thank you for coming. Yeah, like I said, it's my first stream. Hello everyone, hello. And yeah, I have never really streamed before, and I spend a lot of time on Twitch, so it's gonna be a real ride, and I'm sure something will go completely wrong, and I'm excited. Yeah, I kind of want to know where you know me from. Do you know me from Instagram, from TikTok? Music is a little loud, someone says. I will pop that down slightly. Where are we? I'm gonna pull this down. How's that for music? Is that right? TikTok, Instagram, TikTok. Discovered me last week. Welcome. Long-time Instagram fan. Thank you, Wilson Creative. It's cool that people have known me for a bit of time. I'll kind of introduce myself and say a bit about my story before I get into what I'm going to talk about today. Instagram. Thanks for coming from Instagram. You guys rule. Yeah, so very briefly, I studied animation in New Zealand, where I'm from. I'm from New Zealand. And I studied animation all the way back in 2004 to 2006, like a trillion billion years ago. And I worked in the industry for maybe two or 3 years, kind of bounced around a little bit, did a very small amount of work before moving to London in the UK. And in London, I started working for a games company called Splash Damage. And while I was at Splash Damage, I didn't animate at all. I mostly did sort of brand work, brand art. Ended up being the brand manager of a game called Dirty Bomb. If you're like a hardcore FPS player, you might have heard of it at least. You make me feel old, says the Power School. Okay, well at least I made someone feel old. I'm sorry. Yeah, everyone else makes me feel old. Yeah, so I worked at a game studio for about 9 years, and I feel like I learned a lot about branding and nothing about animation. So kind of, I spent that time slowly wanting more and more to get back into animation, feeling like I wasn't being my true self in a way. And so about 4 years ago, I left the company. By this point, I had citizenship in the UK, so I was able to just do whatever I wanted at that point. And yeah, so 4 years ago I started freelancing, and yeah, since then it's been kind of a wild ride of slowly gaining recognition and more people seeing my stuff, which is really neat. And then yeah, maybe in the last year or so, a bunch more people have found me on social media, and largely through kind of those kind of moving CD cover things that I've done for fun. Don't know if you guys have seen those. Can I start sketching? Okay, well, this is a good time for me to jump into like what I plan to talk about today. First off, it's going to be pretty ad hoc. It's going to be me kind of just blasting through a bunch of stuff without a really strong plan other than like a general structure of what I want to talk about. But I will say that I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to be doing much drawing today. Part of the reason for that is that it's really scary drawing in front of people when you don't know them. I'm sure I have to work my way up, you know. But more importantly, because we've just released the trailer for this project called The Medium, which I'm really proud of, and I work with a small team who are really amazing. I want to talk a bit more about that project, about how we created it from start to finish. So less about drawing in the stream, more about like, here's where we started, here's what we worked on, I'll open up a bunch of scenes in After Effects and TV Paint, give you a bit of behind the scenes. So you'll see a lot of the process. Even if you're not going to see me drawing a lot, you'll sort of see me break down the things that we did to get to that final video. And definitely ask me questions along the way. Like, again, it's like, I don't have a plan, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, so I'll try to keep track of your comments and yeah, I'll try to respond when I can. NZ Yogo says, are you going to go over camera movement? I will briefly, yeah. I'm going to be going through the Animatic /Storyboards, which has camera stuff in it, and I'll also talk about Compositing, which also has camera work. I think a lot of this stuff I'm going to have to kind of breeze through, because I'm probably going to be about 2 hours today, I think, and the problem with animation is that any one little part of the process I could spend 2 hours on, and I could show you like an eyebrow moving and you'd be like, wow, okay, there you go. Which is great if you really want to learn one specific thing, but yeah, for this stream it's going to be a bit more of a brief rundown of like, here's what we did start to finish really quickly, and hopefully I won't confuse everyone too much. Actually, can I get a raise of hands? Does anyone here know After Effects or has used it much at all before? Because a part of this will be me digging into my After Effects files. Randy Jackson asks if I use reference. I personally use reference a lot when I'm animating, but not really for this project. Yeah, this project I started with the storyboards and I kind of went from my head and then I passed on mostly to animators. I animated a few scenes, but my animators, I don't know, some of them may have used reference, but I don't know if they did or not. I don't think they did, but I'm not too sure. But reference is great. You should definitely use reference. Why not? So some of you use Clip Studio, After Effects, yes, learning it. Cool. Few people used it. I will say for those of you who have not used After Effects, when you when you see it, you'll probably be like, oh my god, that looks crazy hard. That looks really hard. Oh, I can make myself bigger. I should have done that in the first place. Oh my god, I'm huge. Yeah, I'm gonna just say, don't be too intimidated when you see these programs, because it looks like a lot, but if you're gonna start learning After Effects, you always start small. So you'll start really, really small, and you can build your way up into the sorts of stuff that you'll see me tool around in today. Yeah, so try not to worry. And I'll also say that with learning any kind of animation tool, really a lot of it is just trial and error. And I learned After Effects myself in my second year of animation school, when my friends and I made a short film just for fun in our spare time. And it was really just a case of like, how do I do this? And, just Google, how do I do this? And yeah, figured it out from there. Anyway, so that's the gist of what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to quickly play the video for the Medium, which is the project I'm going to talk about today. Oh, some of you know Toon Boom, that's cool. I haven't been using Toon Boom because when I started freelancing, I was like, I can't afford that just yet. I don't want to pay a monthly fee. I probably should learn it. NZ Yoga uses TV Paint. That's what I use for my 2D animation. Yeah, so I think probably a bunch of you have already seen it, but I want to just play the Medium, the film that we did, before I get into the making of it, just so you have a bit of a place to start from. Oh, the Medium trailer is excellent. Thank you, Kapow School. I appreciate that. I'm really, really glad you like it. Okay, let me put this down here, and then I'll shrink again. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna play this. I'm sorry if you're bored of it. You've seen it 3 times already and you're over it, but maybe some of you haven't. So here we go. I'm just gonna play it, and I won't provide commentary. Turn this up. Sorry.
What will you do, Sasha? Keeping the peace is a commendable course of action. I only have one question for you. What will you do when you're faced with some of the most sinister beings the system has ever known?
Show yourself! Fine then. Let's see how many lives your cowardice will cost you.
What will you do, Sasha?
I will fight!
Now that is an answer.
Cool, that was the medium. If you don't know, we created this as a sort of a teaser for a client called Black Cloud Entertainment, a really cool guy called Andre, and basically the idea is that we created this for him to use for a Kickstarter. So he just kickstarted the medium, which he plans to turn into a full show, basically. So if you want to support him and to turn the medium into like a real show, I'll just throw a link down here for y'all. You can find out more about it here. But basically that's the background. I was approached by Black Cloud Entertainment. They were like, we've got this cool story we want to turn. It's basically a whole plan for a series or multiple series of this show called The Medium. And the idea was that they wanted it to be turned into a really, like a really nice looking trailer that really sold what this world was like. So Andre got in touch with me, sent me a script for the trailer. And I spent some time reading it and came up with a couple of little ideas that I could throw in there, visual ideas. And then we were good to go. I hired a small team, really, really super talented people, and I will be talking more about them today. But it was a very small team for a kind of a trailer of this size and this complexity. Essentially one animator full-time. I was directing. I also composited and I did a little bit of animation. And one background artist, one concept artist for the characters, sound designer, music, voice actors, which the client dealt with. An animated athlete asked if I know them through contacts. So the way that I hired up on this project, and probably will continue to do so, is through mutuals on Instagram, really. Honestly, at the start of the project, when it was coming up, I went through anyone that I was following, so like I knew I loved their work, and that were also following me because I knew that they might want to work with me, and I just sent a bunch of messages to people who I was interested in working with, and so I built a file of animators that and concept artists and stuff that I really liked, and when we started, there's a few people I did already know. Nevena, who has done backgrounds on a few of my projects, and Frans has done character design and animation for me before, so it was a bit of both. Scarlet Squadron asks if beside the script they send you character designs, or was that on us? And asking how much of the design in the trailer was based on my input. So yeah, we had the script from Andre, and we had one character design for Sasha and one for Tao, the bad guy. And I can show them to you now. Essentially, they were done for like an earlier iteration, and I asked if we could adapt them to animation. You can see this is the original Sasha that I was handed. It's obviously like kind of concept art style. I don't know who the artist is. I'm really sorry, so I can't credit them. But I said, can we adapt this to animation? We're going to have to make a few changes anyway. Is that cool with you? Not too dissimilar to the final design. I'll jump between them both here. So we retained the color scheme, the kind of skin type fabric, obviously like the physique and everything else. Just a bit more stylized. I'll talk a bit more about that, I think. And Tao, the bad guy, definitely looked quite different. I'll show you him here. That was the original Tao. While we're here, I may as well show you that along with this, I got given these character designs, and I had my thoughts on how they could be improved for animation. And so I actually put together little sort of revisited PSDs to hand to Frans, the concept artist, saying, here is the original concept. Robot legs, I really love the idea of the robot legs. I think we could really beef those up. Sword, I think we ended up nixing the sword. Sword didn't happen in the end. Physique, the main thing though, you can see the biggest difference is for the final character is that I just wanted him to be scarier, like bigger and scarier. And so that was from reading the script, I really felt that Sasha was in a really tight spot. She was meant to feel really afraid, and it was when she makes this decision to stand up for others in the village that you can see there, I really wanted to make it feel like she was risking something by doing that. And so part of that was like, let's take this bad guy and let's just beef him up, make him really, really scary and big. And that's kind of like, it's not particularly smart, it's just like a feeling I had, which is like, I just want him to be more terrifying. Got some Rocket Boy arts work in here, that's really great. So that was Tao. I was basically like, I want a really big rifle. I also wanted a really insanely huge gun, which I think we got in the end. I'll show you some of the concepts for that, and they're quite fun. And then there was the Sasha Revisited document as well, saying his original concept, but I wanted a little more asymmetry in the design, which you can see in the final design. We've got this kind of like shoulder cross here with some colors that are opposing, which is quite fun. Talked about the face and the hair. One thing that I thought I was really worried about and wanted to do right was that like afro hair, because I think you still don't see a lot of it in animation. And for the longest time, people would say it's too hard to animate black hair. Like it's too hard. The truth is, it is very hard. It's much harder than like obviously short hair or even just like straight hair. But at the end of the day, animation is hard anyway. So I wanted us to focus on like, let's really make this hair feel real, which I think we got. Someone's asking how long it took to produce the trailer. Ages. It took ages. I was contacted literally about a year ago. And I myself have not been working on it full-time up until now. But I've been working part-time and full-time in spurts. So essentially it took, maybe like 10 months start to finish, with maybe no one was on it full-time at any given point, but it's a ton of hours, a lot of hours. I think normally when you have a trailer of this size, you would have a bigger team. I was actually really thankful that I had a long time to produce this, because if you have less people on a team, it means that you get a more consistent video, especially because the animation was mostly done by a guy, Dan Cuervo. I can't pronounce his name, but that's one of the kind of the defining parts of making this trailer really consistent. Thanks Lola Cannoli for saying that you're grateful for putting the effort into showing a person of color, and for admitting it isn't easy. It isn't easy. It was really hard, but I'm really glad that it means something to you, and that's something like we were all really wary of when we made this trailer, is we wanted to do right. And obviously Andre, who runs the studio, who paid for this trailer, that is one of the most important things for him, is making entertainment for people like him, people that look like him, and underrepresented people. So that's really cool. What I'll do is, while we're on the concept phase, I just want to share with you Frans. This guy was actually my tutor in animation school way back. I'll just quickly show you his work because it's bloody awesome, and I'll be sharing a few other things, but this guy is like the most humble person you'll ever meet in your life, but his work is like incredible. A lot of it is obviously this really like beautiful kind of like rough pencil stuff. He's just gone freelance recently, so I don't know if you're in the industry and need like a character designer or an animator. He's amazing at both. I'll see if I can find some of his animations. It's so good. Look at this guy. Look at this. It's so much fun. So I definitely wanted him to do my character designs. I love his style, so you can see he posted them here a little while ago. You should follow him. He's amazing. Get rid of that. That's character design. So got the script, modified it a bit. Originally, there was no little boy villager character, if you remember the little alien dude there. the reason there is now is because in the original script there was this Tao, the bad guy, was like about to walk off to a distant village to destroy it. And so for me, like engaging my visual kind of side, I was like, I feel like we need to make that something we can see and feel, because obviously there's more emotion attached to a literal child about to get killed by a giant laser beam. Again, it's not particularly smart. It's pretty obvious in a way, but and it's something that when you're reading a script, you don't, you can get across the fact that this bad guy is going to go destroy a village, but in the visual medium, you suddenly need to start amping things up and making things really relatable when you can't literally say the words Tao is about to go and destroy a village. So that was one of the things I talked to Andre about, and again, he's really, really happy to accommodate, and we sort of collaborated in that way. So we really wanted him to feel big, his threat to feel real, and I just wanted him to feel like he was just this absolute madman. He's meant to be like this mercenary that's being paid to kill Sasha, but we really wanted him to feel like he was just out for blood, like he was absolutely off his gourd and just, insane. So Frans did these amazing character designs, which I'll show you a few of his early designs actually while we're here. Let me pull them up. So he started off with some silhouettes, which you can see here. Again, this is a great place to start when you're designing characters, is like, don't worry about any of the detail, just start blocking out shapes to give you a really good idea of the feeling of a character without spending too much time. I think some of the feedback I had for Frans at this point was more anime. This is maybe a bit more cartoony than what I wanted for this trailer. I love cartoony stuff, and I've worked with Frans on some more cartoony trailers in the past, but I knew for this one that I felt we really wanted to go a bit more anime, a bit more kind of like superhero comic style. But these were the first ones. I'll pull in some more stuff. Here we can see some early gun designs. Can show you some early heads. Basically, Frans just like mocked up all these heads, and ranging from kind of more orcish with number 1, some real Thanos style, massive chin there. I think in the end I kind of went for something that was a bit more in the middle. I think probably number 3 I went for here. Again, based on this original concept art, but what else have we got here in this folder? When you are animating, you really need a model sheet, a good model sheet, and Frans did these amazing model sheets here. There are several iterations, but you can see how detailed the musculature is in the anatomy here. This is really, really this is really complex, and we kind of knew from the start that this was going to be like an intense project just because of how detailed and how complex these characters were. You can see here, these are Franz's initial concepts for this tattoo. I've seen a lot of people say oh, it's Kratos, and I feel like I'm slightly to blame there, because I think I opted for the red color scheme, and in retrospect I'm like, oh my god, yeah, he's very Kratos. I'm sorry, everyone. So Inamin Arts asks, is the animatic used for the rough animation? Yeah, I'll get you to the animatic in a bit after the concept art, but essentially we create the animatic, the storyboards, to get our timing, and I sent the animatics to the animators to look at as reference to know what the timing was, the staging was, where the characters are on the screen. There are also layouts, which I'll get into. Akram Thakron says, would you recommend me a book? I assume you mean sort of an animation book, and I would say The Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams is absolutely a must-read if you're an animator. Richard Williams is just one of the best animators of all time. He directed Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he's one of those guys that is so dedicated to his craft that it's almost scary, so dedicated to perfection that I don't know if I would have wanted to work for him, because I would have felt like I wasn't good enough. But his work is incredible, and he gave a lot to the world before he died a few years ago by putting together this amazing book called The Animator's Survival Kit. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. It's really great. Any other concept art to show you? There's a whole bunch of stuff here. There's just sort of some poses, some action here. I can show you some early guns. Like you can see, at first I was like, I want you to make the gun just as big as you can. I just want to see how it feels. Wow. This is incredible. And I actually think this is a good way to approach sort of design and animation and anything, which is start big, like push things as far as you can, and then you know where you've gone too far. I think a lot of us have this tendency to kind of create art that's a bit, where you're careful, where you don't want to push things too far, where you're quite reserved in your lines and your strokes and your style. I would say that I've definitely learned over the years that if you have the time to do it, push things really far and pull back rather than starting small and slowly going larger. A very long gun, yes. Any other Tau art that's worth looking at? We've got some more. This is the beginnings of the model sheet. You can see this is really handy, having these lines that run across. Essentially, Frans would have done this probably front-on character here, and he would have done these lines from this first drawing and used those for his vantage point in the side-on, in the three-quarter, in the profile, in the back view. It just helps you like hit the right points across the model sheet. I started coming in with colors later on. What have I got? This is where I was starting to come up with different color schemes. I was pretty into this like red gun tip, this shiny red gun tip. In the end, I think I opted against it, but I thought it was a bit too much red, but I still think it's kind of cool. At this point, I'd put it on the backgrounds and I'd started to play around with colors. Yeah, anyway, that's Tau. That's the big bad guy. I'm not going to spend too long on him or anything because I'm trying to rush through this stuff. Do you have any... thank you for sending the link, Scarlet Squadron. That's amazing. Yeah, if anyone can pick this up, I would totally recommend it. Animators Survival Kit. It's amazing. So that was Tau. Here's some expressions. Then there's Sasha, the character, our hero. Let's see if I can find some stuff. These are, again, very early sketches, just trying to get these colors and shapes down. I can show you the hair. She looks a little bit different here, but this is where Frans is trying to figure out how this hair works. My God, this hair. Let me show you what he ended up coming up with to explain basically how the hair works. Check this out. So we've got these different angles for the face. This is extreme, like, as if this hair wasn't complicated enough, there's also a shadow layer. So you've got like each of these, strands of hair, like casting shadows onto one another, which is just absolutely wild. There's a really funny picture in here, and I'm trying to find it. It's got to be in here somewhere. Maybe I'll just breeze through them for you. Look, we've got some 3D models. Frans started to pull around some 3D for the animators to use as reference. Very cool. There's this thing on Sasha's side here, which is basically this spear. It kind of like this kind of magic kind of material stuff kind of comes out of this pocket on her side. So he was just coming up with some cool ideas for that. In the end, this is a bit too complex for animation, so I asked him to pull back. But again, it's great to start from a point and work your way back. 3D model for the gun. Someone asks, Whitey Scott Bit Gaming asks, do you do 3D animations? So this animation is almost all 2D in the final result, but it uses a lot of 3D in some interesting ways. This gun here, for instance, when we started, we had this first concept art of Tau, the bad guy. I had a model sheet for the gun, and we were like, okay, this is great. This seems simple enough. I asked for the gun to be like simplified a lot so that it wasn't too difficult to animate. But any object that is like just hard edges, not a fleshy, squishy human, is actually really, really hard to animate in 3D space. And we realized a few shots into animating everything that like, oh my God, like how are we going to animate this gun and get its get this perspective as it's turning in front of camera. So we quickly realized that and basically we're like, we need a 3D model. in the end, what we did is we modeled a 3D gun. In the rough stage of animation, we used Blender to overlay, basically animate the gun on top of the rough animation. We then used the Blender animation, exported that, and imported it back into our animation program, like TV Paint and 2D, and drew over the gun that we had done in Blender. So it was a real combination of Blender and TV Paint there. I don't know if I'm going to find the hair. I don't know where it's gone. It was interesting. You guys would love it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Frans came up with this turkey analogy. Where the hair is basically built of this, like the fringe sections, these two colors, like kind of peach and orange, and then the back sections, which is the purple and blue. And actually having these parts of the hair color coded helped a lot to help get these different parts of the hair and the head into, together in your brain when you're animating. So that was fun. That was, it's very tricky. Scarlet Squadron says that they like the smart use of different apps to reach a solution. Yeah, I would say that like all of the projects that I've done so far, the bigger projects, have been sort of having to come up with new solutions based on the look I want. And one of the interesting things about animating and creating an animated, trailer or show or short film is that not only do they all look different and everyone has their own voice and their own style, is that there are just like a million ways you can create an animated short. So there's no real correct way. And I will also say that with everything I talk about today, this is just how we did it and how sort of I decided was the best way to go forward with these things at the time. I'm sure there are like faster ways, there are better ways, but this is just how we decided to do it. And I'm sure I will change things for the next project. I'll also say that like at the end of this project, I kind of sat down with like the animators and Nevena, the background artists, and character designer Frans, and I was like, what can we do better? Like what didn't work so well this time around? And I think it's really important to do that when you're creating projects of this size, especially if you're working with a team, and use that information and that data to help you for the next project. So there's definitely parts of this project that like I know I would do different next time. One of them was in the backgrounds, which I'll get to. Anyway, that's the concept art stuff. Ton of amazing work by Frans. I'll put his link to his Instagram back into chat so you all can follow him. There you are. Gabriel's 2006 says that you're 15 years old and you're a starter animator. You've been animating for 1 year and you're asking for tips on backgrounds. I just read that out and now I'm like, I need an answer. That's hard. I will say first up that like if you're 15 and you're already animating, that's amazing. And I wish that I started at 15. I was about 19 when I started animation school, and before that I had no idea I could even be an animator or that was a job. I sort of saw it. This is how old I am. I saw like a printed ad, like a little ad in the newspaper that was like, hey, want to learn animation? And I was like, oh yes, of course I do. I'm just working in a supermarket. And so I drew, but it was only once I was about 19 that I really got into drawing and started to improve a lot. So backgrounds, quick tips on backgrounds. I'm going to go into backgrounds, so I think I will hopefully cover some stuff there. But I would say overall, if you want to get better at backgrounds, you should practice perspective drawing and go out and sketch buildings and environments in the real world. And I would say generally my advice for getting better at drawing is don't just spend your time trying to draw your favorite cartoon characters or anime characters or trying to like crib someone's style. I would say it's more important. Although it's really great to copy people's style and play around with that stuff, because I did that as well. But I would say that drawing from life, doing like life drawing, the mundane outdoor things, interesting buildings that you see, like plants, people sitting in the cafe just sketching gestures and poses of people that are smoking outside or whatever. Drawing from life is the most important thing, I think. actually, and I know that perspective drawing when you're new, when you've just started getting into drawing, is really tricky. But again, the way you should approach drawing is to start small, just kind of learn a thing at a time and try to add like each building block to your knowledge. I will send you a link to something else which I think is really amazing. Another book which is actually free because it's really, really old. I'm going to see if I can find it. Here we go. Yes, I found it. Glad I had this shit just ready to go. Man, makes me feel like a professional. I'm going to send a link here to a book from... I'm going to put it down here so you can have a look. This is called Andrew Loomis's Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. Very, very old. Probably pretty dated in some respects. But it still has a lot of really, really great stuff when it comes to how to draw and how to do perspective and proportion and anatomy. I'm going to send you a link to this now, and I would highly recommend anyone who's sort of just starting to get a grip on anatomy or perspective or anything to, Loomis for the win. Love it. Download this. It's free. It's old. Free content is good content. I mean, look at all this stuff. It's like, here's how you project stuff. Here's all these... Here's like something that I just learned from this, which is how to have a character in the foreground and the background feel like they are on the same plane. And some of this stuff is actually surprisingly simple, but amazingly helpful. I won't go into it today because, again, it's all in this book and I'm trying to do an overview here, but I would really, really recommend reading through this guy's stuff. Like here, just drawing figures on a perspective background. Very, very cool. And if you can do life drawing, if you can get to real life drawing, I know it's hard in the age of COVID, but if you can get yourself to a local life drawing meetup, it is amazing. It's so good for your growth as an artist. I think I've probably improved the most at art in the times that I've sort of gone to life drawing every week. Loomis is mandatory for your students. Yes, love it. It's good stuff. I'm going to put that away. Okay, I do realize I'm completely rambling on. So I'm going to move on to animation. Oh, someone says, is there art by KXDSA says, is there anything you would consider as cheating in animation? I've heard people argue that rotoscoping is cheating. It's a good question. Okay, okay, here's what is cheating. No, wait. Nothing is cheating. Nothing is cheating. Okay, the only thing that is cheating, I would say, is rotoscoping someone else's animation and not giving them credit for it. I can't remember what it was, but a couple of years ago, there was this really amazing kind of intro animation that someone did for an event or something, and then everyone was sharing it around, and then someone realized that they had basically just rotoscoped over a bunch of other animations. And that was really, really bad, and you should never, ever, ever, ever do that. But I would say that rotoscoping, I mean, animation is anything. I think anyone who tells you that animation is a certain style or that this kind of animation is better than that animation is closed-minded, and that animation is absolutely anything. And I would say that most like Marvel films these days are like 75% animation. People don't really even realize that. But there's a load of hilarious and amazing, and sometimes kind of janky and cheap kind of animations that are fully rotoscoped, but it doesn't matter because they serve the visuals that they're going for really well. They serve the story they're trying to tell. Some of the, I've seen a film called Waltz with Bashir, which is, I think it's rotoscoped, but it's amazing. It's about, oh my goodness, I can't remember what it's about. It's about a war somewhere. This is bad. Anyway, don't listen to anyone who says this is or isn't what animation is, or you can or you cannot do this. If you're wanting to improve as an animator, I would say probably don't rotoscope. I'd say rotoscoping, if you want to actually get better at animation and sort of the tenets of animation, like keyframing and stuff, probably don't rotoscope. You'll see that I use a lot of reference in my kind of like Instagram or TikTok, but the important thing is not to just slavishly stick to your reference. It's to go, what is it about this reference that is working and what could be pushed even further in animation? Oh, that was Sony. Thank you, Dr. Love Punch. Yeah. Hilarious and sad and stupid. Yeah. Thanks guys for pointing out that it was that Sony PS4 trailer. It was quite a furore in the animation industry. Anyway, cool. So that's that. Everyone should read Loomis. It's great. And nothing is cheating in animation unless you're stealing from people and not giving them credit. Quickly, I will say, though, if you have like a favorite artist and you really want to take inspiration from them with your drawing, that's okay. Like, everyone starts from their inspirations. For me, Claire Wendling is absolute top tier artist, and I will forever be in love with her work. She's a French kind of comic artist, in the animation industry, her work is just mind-blowingly beautiful. Okay. I wanted to show you some of her work. For me, anyway, I know that she might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it's just the best. Like, her command of anatomy and this kind of like playfulness in her characters and her poses is just next level. And the fact that she does so much of this without, hardcore shading, without like painting, just her raw sketches just make me go, ugh, I need to draw. So anyway, I would say quickly that if you are really inspired by someone's style, totally just keep like a window open of the bunch of their work, and as you're working on stuff, just keep referring back to it, and you'll kind of be a sponge to their style as you go. Sometimes I would set myself kind of like, I'm just going to draw a bunch of people from photo reference, and I'm going to try and make them look like Claire Wendling pictures. And that's what I did when I was starting to get into drawing. And that is really fun. I'd say if you are getting too close to like the exact poses and stuff, and you want to post it online, I would 100% recommend just mentioning the artist that you're cribbing from, and just say you're really inspired and you based it on their work. But I would also say that if you can handle not sharing work, which is very hard in this social media age, but if you want to just work yourself in your own time, just go crazy, just like copy things. I've just had a picture of a Claire Wendling drawing here and just tried to copy it, see how close I can get. Again, I didn't share it, but anyway, there you go. Anyone out there like Claire Wendling? Just realized I'm not playing the music, am I? That's a sad one. I'm gonna play it now. There we go. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna move on back to the medium, and I'm going to figure out what I want to talk about, which I believe is storyboards. Yeah, let me pull up some storyboards for you. Okay, here we go. So I'll just play you the storyboards in their entirety. So the storyboards I did myself. I think Frans and Nevena, the concept artists, had already started doing concept art for the characters and the backgrounds, but alongside that I was creating this animatic just to get a feel for everything. I'll play it through just so you can see how it goes. I don't think there's music. So I'll just click this little button here. So this is all done in TV Paint. Let me just pull this in for ya. Yeah, here we go. Some of the shots changed a bit, like the angle from here changed thanks to Dan the animator's input. It's so funny watching this with this chill music. So all I knew is that I wanted eyes on rocks, and so I didn't have any art to support it, but I was like, I'm just going to put eyes on things because I think that could be a really interesting way to approach this scene. Oh, TV Paint is out of frame in the stream. You're right. How did that happen? Thank you. Sorry. Cheers. Let's sorry guys. I'll go back a little bit. Oh, and you're asking for Nevena's, Claire Wendling's Instagram link. Yeah. Getting distracted here. I'm going to give you Claire Wendling's Instagram link because I didn't do it before and I feel bad about it. Claire Wendling is the most underrated artist in living history. I have more followers than her on Instagram, which is a travesty. There, do it. Please follow her, please. There you go. And I'll get back to this. It's in the chat. I'll get back to this. Here you go. Well, thanks for staying, Gabriels. I hope you have a nice day. The way he throws that is really silly. Definitely more intense with music. This last shot coming up is definitely the most complex shot that I wanted to do in here. You can kind of see the start of it in this animatic. So that's the animatic, there you go. So probably for the next, like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, I'll just talk about the animatic phase and how I did this. If you have any questions on storyboarding or animatics, 100% yell out. Thanks, Randy Jackson, appreciate that. So in TV Paint, this is basically broken into these sort of separate shots here. And you're kind of assembling your own little short film in TV Paint, which is really helpful. I think this is maybe the first project that I used TV Paint for storyboarding, and I think before that I'd used Photoshop, and it's just I basically be drawing and then importing stuff into After Effects. And oh, Alexa, stop! I'm not going to the girl drinks. I think my wife is going to the girl drinks. How big do you make your canvas? Let me find out for you. Project size is basically 4K. Final project was 1080p, but generally when I'm animating, I will work at maybe double the resolution, and then by the time it gets into After Effects, I will often pull it back down to 1080p. 4K is amazing, and I have done 4K projects in the past. It's just that it takes so much more like CPU processing, and like it's more of a strain in your graphics card, and everything goes slower. So I kind of have to decide at the start of every project, like, oh, is this something that needs 4K? How much will it benefit from 4K? I thought 1080p was fine for this. Blood and Rust asked if I learned animation my own or did I have formal training. So I did actually go to animation school in New Zealand for 3 years. This is back when we drew pencil and paper, which is, I'm really glad that I got to learn that way. Maybe like 2 or 3 years after that, the entire industry changed and it all went to like tablets, and a lot went to 3D as well. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to get to go to an animation school, and that really, really helped. Partly because it was just like time that you have set aside to learn animation, partly because you have tutors that are really good, if you have good tutors, and also it's just to meet other animators that can like inspire you and get you excited. Other questions. Do you reuse any elements from the animatic, or is it just to get the timing right? So no, I didn't reuse any aspects at all from the animatic. Definitely the whole idea of an animatic is to just work as rough and speedy as possible. It definitely was more about timing. Making sure that one scene flowed into the next. And in a way, your animatic and your storyboard is kind of the most important part of the entire process, even though the amount of time it takes to complete is much shorter, because if you basically, this is where your entire film is created in a weird way. Like, you know, watching this animatic, you all can see it's like, you know what's happening, you understand what the characters are going through, you get the emotions, even if it's like not as nuanced or as beautiful as the final thing. It's really important with animatics, and it is that you should work fast, and don't be afraid to change things, don't be afraid to get feedback. Because I was the one that was basically in charge of this whole project, I could have just done the animatic and gone, this is my vision, this is it, this is perfect, let's everyone do this. But thankfully I've got like peers and mutuals that are good at this stuff, and so I basically sent my work in progress animatics to them and was like, what do you think? And they gave me some really great, clear feedback on how I could improve things. Don't be afraid to completely throw things out, start again, to change your angles. A few people that use Clip Studio, I can't actually give you any specific advice on using Clip Studio because I have never used it myself, but I've heard good things about it. Dude asks, would it be better to start small, like animating one shot or dive deep with a short film after learning the animation fundamentals? I would say start small. I would definitely say start small. The problem with starting a short film is that I think you kind of quickly become aware of just how long it's going to take you, and it can be really demoralizing to start a project and be really excited about it and realize, like near the start, this is going to take me years. I think actually this is something that I see a lot in animation, is that there's a lot of hubris as to what you can achieve. And I think we all have this thing where we're like, no, I can do it, it's fine. The animation is just such a time-consuming medium that I think you'd be better off to start off with a shot and go like, okay, let's see what I can take, what I've learned, my fundamentals, my weight, my timing, and make a character like jump off a cliff or like swing from here to there or like punch himself in the face or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. It all depends. This is my perspective. Maybe for you, like a short film is a great way to stay motivated, but I would also say that if you're literally just getting into animation, the problem with creating a short film is that by the time you're halfway through, you will have improved a lot, and you'll be like, oh, now I need to redo all those other shots. But you do you. Basically, I would say actually the most important thing is to do the thing that is fun and will allow you to keep doing stuff. If that means doing a short film, do that. If that means doing a single shot or like riffing on someone else's shot or just doing a little TikTok, do that. Basically, I think the most important thing is to do whatever it is that makes you go, I want to keep doing this, for sure. Yeah. So we've had some questions about cameras. I think I've saved this version as a junk stream version, so I can go in here and I can change things around. So what I'll do is I've already gone into this first shot as an example. It's a fairly simple camera move, obviously. It starts up here, the establishing shot on this planet, and I move the camera down to reveal these characters running through this ravine. So the way I work when you've got cameras is you've got the entire canvas here. The canvas is always the same size from shot to shot when you're working on Animatic and TV Paint, which is why there's just random unused space on the sides. But when you're in here, there's a camera button here, and you can see green is your starting position for the camera, red is your ending position for the camera, and it will literally just travel between the two. You can see that's what the final shot looks like here. If I click this button here, you can see it will just show me the animation without any of the camera move, which can sometimes be very helpful. So what you do is you would have this camera here. I would zoom in. If I felt like this wasn't a great starting point for the shot, like maybe I want it to be a bit more zoomed out, it's pretty simple. I think you can just grab, wait, do I have camera selected? I say it's simple and then I don't know how to use the software, which is cool. No, here we go. Okay, so here's how you move it around. Maybe if to make it a bit more zoomed out, I can literally just pull that further open, and now I can play it to you to see how it looks. See, so you're a bit further out and it will start zooming to get down to the next shot. Likewise, it moves down here. If we want this part of the animation to also be a bit more zoomed out, you can just pull that out here. Maybe I want it to start to go a bit more slowly down and then fast later, so I pulled this keyframe up a little bit here now, and you can see the difference. And now it looks super janky, but that's the basic gist of it. Is you have green for start, red for end, and if you add these keyframes in between, look, I've added one now. It just throws a keyframe in there, and it will change your path. So I can just go a bit mad and I can throw these in here to see how it looks. I literally just beautiful. I literally just dragged on the main path to add a new keyframe. The other thing that is useful here is this time profile. Once you open this up, you can see I've edited the path. Basically, this is showing you how far through your camera move you are. So right at the start, oh dear, shouldn't have done that. Wait, pull this up for you. Right at the start, it's a very slow move. You can see we're traveling up here at a very slow rate. So the camera's barely moving at the start, and then it speeds up. You can see this line is the most steep vertical incline here. Speeds up there, so the camera moves very fast at that point. And again, you can pull these around. You can maybe make that entire bit at the start slow by pulling that down. Now this line isn't as vertical, so it's going to be a slower move from here to here. And then it'll go fast to catch up there. So that's how you do it. In all honesty, TV Paint is like, the cameras are a little bit rudimentary and can be a bit fussy and annoying. For instance, if I added another 2 seconds to this shot, I would have to go in this entire camera. I'd have to change a lot of stuff, basically. Yeah, I don't want to go into it. It's boring to talk about, but it's a bit annoying. I made it seem simple. That's great to hear. It's not super duper hard. Yeah, I'll take you to another scene to show you maybe a slightly more complex camera move. Let's go for this one. You can see from this shot to this shot. There we go. I'll show you how I did those camera moves. Also, I'm planning to do a little video on this, but I'll tell you guys about it now, just because I think it's an interesting little bit of filmmaking knowledge that not everyone knows about, but probably most people who are professionals do know, and that is that you should always sort of lead the eye with your shots. What I mean by that is if you've got fast action shots, you don't want the viewer, the audience, to have to, if they're watching a character over this side of the screen, you don't want to cut to show that character on this side of the screen. You don't want to have, the more work that the audience has to do to figure out what's going on and where things are, the harder it will be for them to follow. If you enjoy a Michael Bay film, good on you, but his films often are just cutting to anything and everything, characters all over the screen, super fast action. It's just like, people talk about Michael Bay films as being like a visual overload, but I don't think it's in a good way. It's in a kind of like a way that makes you feel numb because it's really hard to even follow. A lot of the time, this is stuff you won't even actively think in the cinema. You might just feel a bit more dizzy or a bit nauseous, more than you would if it was a really well-crafted shot or sequence of shots that leads you from one point to the other very clearly. I would say that Edgar Wright, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, etc., is like a master at doing very fast action that you can follow. Oh, Scott Pilgrim, I think, is a great example. There's so many amazing kind of cuts and shots where you almost can't believe how fast you're cutting from shot to shot and still able to follow the thrust of the sequence. So between the cuts between these two shots here, I was very mindful of having the character. It's a bit hard to see because the fact that you can see the camera rather than the final output, but I'll play it through. You can see I wanted this character at the end of this shot to be sort of at the left hand, kind of the first third of this camera, and to be in exactly the same place in this camera. So even though she's shot from two completely different angles, you can follow it more clearly because of the way that I've staged the shots. I'll play it for you now and you'll see. It's almost like there wasn't even a cut, you know what I mean? And that is the ideal, where you have and I'll play it in the final thing as well, just so you can get an idea of how that worked in the final. Let me find that shot for you. Okay, again, watch this. Just see where the character is. See where your eye moves as you follow the character. You'll see your eye barely has to move between these two shots. Yeah. And again, I could have moved the camera just slightly. Like it was just an active choice as I was doing the storyboard to keep her in frame in the same place. Yeah, let's look at this camera. Let's jump into this scene here. Sorry, I haven't really been keeping up on comments. So if you have any questions, shout out now and I can answer any. How many explosions do you want? Michael Bay, yes, he sure loves his explosions. So here's a camera that is like maybe a little bit more complicated. You can see the way it's moving through here. You can see I even rotated the camera as it moves. Again, it's just the same technique. You've got the green for the start point, and then red for the end point. Where's the red? There's no red. Red's out of the game. Okay, whatever. You can get the idea. Again, you can move these around. I just felt like it would be good to follow her, keep her in basically the same point. Oh, this is one other thing about cameras as well, and one thing I try to do a little bit, which is in real life when you're filming, when you're making a movie with a real life camera, It's basically impossible to keep your characters in frame all the time, especially if they're flying all over the place, if they're everywhere in action scenes. And you know, there's a lot of cinematographers and a lot of camera operators that are incredibly good at keeping their characters in frame, and that's amazing. But one thing that I try to do when I create animated shorts is to give a feeling of, you know, make it to make it feel more like it could be a real place and a real thing and a real film. I try to make some of the cameras feel a little bit janky. Not janky, but make it feel like sometimes you're following the action, like the camera person can't quite keep up. So for instance, in that shot, again, I'll go through. I could have easily, let me find it. So I could have, how do you frame through? Not like that, okay, I don't know how. If anyone knows how to use VLC, let me know. But essentially, she kind of comes off screen a little bit here. She doesn't say center of the frame, she almost like falls off it for a second. And that was to kind of give this impression of a camera operator sort of struggling to keep up with the action. Pause and press E, yes! I'm glad people who know how to use the things I don't know are here with me. Thank you so much. Probably don't need to do that right now, but anyway, I'll use that knowledge later. Can't wait. Yeah, so I think that's one important thing. I think someone was asking how to rotate the camera. Let's have a look. My camera size is 1080p. I think the output is. I think it actually just outputs at. Goodness me, I don't know. I think it might even just output at 4K, but I could be maybe wrong. I think honestly at this stage it didn't really matter. The important thing was that it was in 16:9 ratio because. You know, I was never going to use this stuff for the final film anyway. But yeah, it is 16:9 ratio. It's either 1080p or 4K. I'm not too sure. Sorry. And sorry, just reading your comments. Is it important to have the cameras follow your character? If your character is moving and you want to, it depends. Like in this short, where the short was all about our character Sasha. Yeah, you want the camera to follow your character. There are maybe a few times where you want the character to go off screen and not see them. Even in this previous shot, that was a choice that I made here, where I kind of wanted to focus on this eyeball thing as like a little precursor to seeing later on. So here she goes off screen, so she's not even on screen for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we cut back to her. A part of that actually was also because I wanted to go to this moment of this like very kind of a still moment of this creepy eye where you're like, what is going on, to this like instant sort of this vertigo style shot of like she's just literally in the middle of the air. I kind of wanted the audience to feel this kind of breathlessness as you suddenly cut to her just falling. That was my intent anyway with that shot. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're following a character, sure, you have the camera follow them. That sounds good. How do you know when you should have the large background and move the camera instead of keeping the camera still and moving the whole background? Yeah, that is a good question. There were a few shots in here where I did do that, where I kept the character still and I moved the background, and maybe I'll show you those quickly now. For these shots where you're covering a lot of ground, the character's moving very far, I think it can be very helpful to just draw it all out. Like if I was trying to draw this shot here by, you know, making the background move and have the character in place, I think it actually would have been very hard to animate the background in a moving kind of realistic way. But let me flash forward to one of these other shots. I think there's the bit where Tao is sort of like looking around here. I think this is an example of, I think, where the character is just center, because I knew I wanted him entirely central, and yeah, I just moved the background across. I think this is another Michael Bay shot, but yeah, where I wanted the camera just to pan him really quickly, and it was easier for me to animate him just standing in position than having him move across. Yeah. So that's Animatic. Is there any other questions you all have on the Animatic, the storyboard phase? I could like show you some of the rough drawings I did in here. Some of these will have some like leftover remnants of like early shots that didn't really work out so well. But I can move on to show you the next part of the process, because I know my plan was to kind of show a bit of everything. But if you have... Oh yeah, there's a question which is there a point when you can make out, yes, this is how the shot works, and I'm done with it here? It's a hard one, and I think like any artist will tell you that, like, you know, like you feel like you never finish. You have to just stop working rather than, you know, like you could perfect any, you could spend so long on anything. I think with just the attitude you have in an animatic, which is like, this isn't completely final, it's just to give a flavor of where the shot is going, where the character is going, then you can afford for it to not be perfect, sort of. This is a very, very flimsy, wishy-washy answer, and I apologize. I think it's honestly, it's a taste thing. I think a lot of that comes with experience, and I think for me, when I started, you know, like I was less confident in when a shot was done, and when I felt like it was working. I think feedback is really important. I think sometimes if you're not entirely sure, but you're like, you think it's pretty good, just move on. Just keep working on the animatic and do the same with all the other shots, and then show someone and say, what do you think? Like, what works for you? What doesn't work for you? Just because it's really easy to get stuck in your own head and sort of, you know, like lose the overall focus. Yeah. Any other questions? How long did it take you to draw each shot? In the animatic, I think this animatic actually took me about a week and a half all up, including sort of feedback and changes. I don't know if that's normal. The thing is, I've never actually worked as like a story artist, as a board artist for a studio, so because I'm a little bit of a generalist, I can't tell you if that's fast or slow, or even give you necessarily the best techniques for storyboarding. This is just how I do it, yeah. Oh, this is another one actually, where this complex shot where I kind of had to draw the background a lot as it was changing and moving, just because it was going to be a 3D scene, and that was pretty tricky. You are Devianasaur asks, thank you so much for your efforts. I want to ask, how can I make a background for 360 camera rotation? Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's something we did do in this show, and it was for this shot here. The thing is, I can't really go into it now. Like, I can't explain it all now, just because it's like a Blender thing and it takes a while. And I also don't really know. And Nevena, my background artist, did a lot of it at the time. But essentially, what we did for this shot, I'll get into backgrounds really soon. But all of these backgrounds were mocked up in 3D. And so what Nevena did is she set the camera up in the right place in the scene, and then she exported from Blender in a format that basically flattens your 3D, like a full 360 scene, into a flat plane. And then you can import that into After Effects and turn it back into a 3D sphere, which is basically the way, you know, Google Maps Street View works, which is where, you know, when the streetcar goes along, it takes a single shot. It's like a 360 shot, and then that gets turned into you know, like that gets put through the algorithm for you to allow you to like move around in Google Maps, the final thing. But essentially, each of those photos that the Google car is taking is just a flat photo that can be read in a certain way to make it 3D. So essentially for this, we took this shot in Blender, we imported it, well, Nevena imported it into Photoshop and did a lot of painting over it to turn it from this kind of like simple mock-up into a final piece of art. And then in After Effects, I can show you in a bit, in After Effects, I was able to basically put my camera back in there and just turn it around and look where I wanted to look. And yeah, I can show you in After Effects when we get there. You might have to remind me. Yeah, I'm going to move on from storyboards. There's a lot more to talk about, but again, like, I want to just sort of give you an overview. So let's move on. Oh, I've got an animation here. I'll get into that later. Let me open up After Effects for you. Oh yeah. So this is the next phase, actually. I'm all over the place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you Nevena's work, because I've spent a lot of time talking about her work without actually showing it to you, and it's beautiful. So I want to give her a plug and just show you her cool stuff. So let me show you some concept art. as I said, while I was working on the animatic, Nevena was figuring out how the world would look. She started with these like super quick but really fun sort of kit bashy things where she was just pulling images of flora and weird plants based on my brief to come up with these ideas. You can see the silhouette of Sasha there for an idea of how large these things are. She's basically throwing these ideas together, giving me numbers, and I'm going like, oh, like I think this is a good starting point. Let's start with number 3 or whatever and work our way out from then. These are really fun. Again, like my idea was that she would land in this kind of clearing that was filled with eyes to give this kind of additional sense of foreboding and feeling like she could not hide. I really wanted her to feel small and scared and trapped at that point. And even though these eyes are not really, they don't really impact much of the story itself, I think what I wanted to do with them is to make the character again feel small and scared. That was the main point of them. There was also a little idea of them almost like leading Tao to her because they were all watching her every move, but I'm not sure if that was entirely clear from the final thing. Digital Drawing Disaster is asking, how long will this showcase be? Oh man, I'm thinking I should probably wrap up in like 45 minutes. I could go longer, honestly, but depending on how y'all are feeling. Maybe I should gauge you quickly. I'm going to go through backgrounds, I'm going to go into After Effects, and I can also go into animation. But just quickly, can I get a read on like what you guys want to see the most out of everything that I'm going to be showing you and have shown you? What is the stuff that you want to do or want to know more about? Hit me while I have a little drink. After Effects. Cool. Yep. After Effects. Yep, we'll get there in a second. Awesome. Compositing. Yep. Cool. Everything done. Okay. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I tend to ramble, so glad you'll stick around. Cool. Well, we will get to After Effects, and I will maybe briefly cover animation as well. I use TV Paint to do my 2D animations. Yeah. So here are more, I think maybe this is where we started with the eyes and the rocks, and then I kind of said, can we go in more of a direction that is like larger eyes on shards kind of coming out of the ground. So Nevena did these amazing concepts here. And this, I think, is basically final concept. It was like, yes, that is what we want. That's awesome. Can we get that? And so this is pretty similar. Obviously, it got more cartoony by the end, but that's just the idea. Really, really fun stuff. This is the initial like fun little sketches she did for the look of the little village that you get. And now I will send you a link to Nevena's work, and I'll quickly share it because she has worked with me in a few projects. I knew her from working in Splash Damage, the games company, and yeah, she has a really amazing style that is really strange and unexpected and kind of beautiful. Very bizarre, a lot of her stuff, and that's kind of what I really love about it. I mean, you can tell that she's very like adaptable because obviously the final backgrounds in this project are a bit more cartoony than some of this other stuff. Like, look at this stuff. And yeah, she has a really unconventional style and probably like kind of an unconventional approach to the way she actually designs art as well. Yeah. Very, very cool. Art by KXDSA, it says, would you mind posting their Instagrams on your Instagram stories after the stream? That is a great question, and yes, I absolutely will post 2 stories right down for myself. Also, if you look at any of my like Instagram posts on the Medium, or most of them, I think I do actually have like a list of credits if you scroll down the description. So if you want to see any of this art later, you can just go to one of my posts and find them from there. Also, Scots which asks, when you wrap up, if you could recap with an overall animation pipeline timeline, that would be lovely. I will try. I'll add that to my notes. Cool. Okay. So that's Nevena's work. Very, 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 very cool. And yeah, go follow her. She's awesome. So we'll move on from her cool backgrounds into the layout phase. So as I mentioned, we did these backgrounds. She pulled together these backgrounds in Blender first, which is really useful because it allowed us to just mock everything up and then basically physically place real cameras in there. So she basically did this work of pulling together this world in Blender, and then I made some changes to it as well, and then I was able to go in myself and just throw all these cameras in there. I'm like a complete Blender noob, and I use it so seldom that every time I come back to it, I'm like, how do you move the camera again? But it's really helpful and great. And so I'll show you something very funny now, something that tickles me to look at it now, which is the layouts. You've seen the storyboards. We went to Blender to make the 3D models, and then I put my cameras in there, I took the screenshots, and I put those screenshots of the mock-ups of the backgrounds back into the animation in After Effects, and I'll show you how weird this got. Let me make this bigger for you. I love that bit.
Keeping the peace is a commendable course of action, Sasha. I only have one question for you. What will you do when you're faced with some of the most sinister beings?
Yep, that's that 3D scene we were talking about. But you can, if you go and look at the final animation, you'll see that all of the art is sort of based on these 3D models. It's just paintovers of 3D models. But it was a really fun way to kind of get the accuracy of 3D with the kind of painterliness of hand-painted backgrounds. These models here are literally just like stock images that I found just to get the placement in the frame. It looks really silly, I love it. So I sent the animators, mostly Dan, I sent him both these, my animatic, and also his, these layouts, 3D layouts, so he knew where things went. Oh man! So here, that was the money shot there. This is again the most complex scene in the show, which is 3D in After Effects, but all of these sort of objects in the background are just 2D layers. So essentially, I asked Nevena to paint me sort of these flat 2D layers for this shot, and I just. Oh man, I can't help myself. I'll go in here quickly just to show you what the heck is happening. Let me get my test cam out. I always have a camera called test cam, which is just for me to fiddle around in. Oh my goodness, where am I? Okay, I think I need to zoom in. Here we go, here's the grid. So this is one of those things where like After Effects is not really 3D software, not like Blender. But it does allow you to do 3D stuff in a kind of a basic way, and so you can see these things are actually all in 3D space. Again, like if I looked at them from above, they're just basically flat, but you can see the bottom of them there. But it does allow you to make some cool stuff. And one thing I started using maybe about a year ago, which has been like really helpful. Is a plugin for After Effects called Metal Freeform, and this basically allows you to take a texture, in this case this ground layer, and it allows you to basically give it 3D, like a 3D map, where you can mess around with points like vertices to give it a real 3D look, which is perfect for me because for a long time I've used After Effects in this kind of 3D way. But there's kind of an inherent flatness to a lot of what you get, just because you can't really get full models, just these flat images. So it's not cheap. It cost me something like $200 or something like that. But again, it was like really important, and I was getting paid to make these things. So like I felt like it was worth using for the sake of this short, I think. So yeah, that's how this looks, and it looks really. A lot of the time when you're animating, and you'll also find this even in like really pro places like Pixar and stuff, is that things look like beautiful from the camera, but often if you moved a few feet left or right, you'll see there's a ton of stuff janking up the sides or things that you don't need to worry about because they're just not going to be in your final shot. Yeah, so these are my layouts, and again, it's the first time I'd ever done this, which was like kind of use these 3D objects to get everything right. Yeah, so I did these layouts, sent these layouts. and I will really quickly... Oh, someone asked, totally unrelated to the topic of the stream, but why do you always wear the goggles? Haha. Yeah, good question. I don't really have a great answer other than when I was like 19, had started animation school, I was really obsessed with steampunk, just anything steampunk, and I don't know, man, like one day I was just like, no one wears steampunk goggles in real life and this needs to change. So basically it kind of coincided with me getting dreadlocks, which is, you know, you can just imagine. You probably can't imagine, it seems batshit crazy, but yeah. So basically I just turned up to animation school one day with dreadlocks and goggles and everyone's like, what is wrong with you? Animation is about style. Yeah, I agree. So basically that's the point where I was like, I'm just gonna wear goggles. Like people wear earrings, people wear pendants, people wear necklaces. You know, why not? Like, I don't care, it seems fun. So yeah, I don't wear them all the time. And I've lost my hair since then, but I still like them. And I actually have like a whole bunch of them back there, different colors. Yeah, that's your answer. Be the change you want to see in the world, that's right. Yeah, so these are the layouts. I'll really quickly jump back into TV Paint just very quickly to show you one single shot, because I did a few shots in the final thing. Not many. Basically, this little alien boy that you see, I animated him. I animated a couple of like quite simple Tao shots and quite simple Sasha shots. Everything else was by Dan. But this is the way I animate here. I had my little 3D layout that I had here for reference. I had in the corner, I had the storyboard. And then I did the rough animation. You can see it here. I'll turn off the layout. This is my first pass at a rough animation. Very, 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 very rough. And this is one thing I've realized in the last few years really, is that there's no point starting with any amount of detail, because the most important thing of all of animation is just getting the movement and the flow of the movement correctly, to do that right. So here's my pretty funny first rough. But again, it's just getting an idea across. It's sort of figuring out what the character's going to be doing. You can see I've left little notes for myself. Shoulders up and stretch cheeks, because I was just like acting in a mirror and going like, you know, when you're scared, what do you do? Well, often you'll do this kind of like, almost like going into your shell as a turtle, like, ugh, eesh. And you know, like, ugh, stretching your cheeks out. And that's what he does. He'll be like, ugh. That's kind of what I was going for with that. Yeah, so these are my roughs. If anyone doesn't know what is going on at the top left here, these are like your timing charts. So what you do in animation, you start with your keyframes, which is your main parts of the pose. In this case, it's just the very first frame you see on screen. And then it is the second bit where he's just like, ugh. And then it's the third bit, which is where his hands are up and he's freaking out. So that's your last key there. The eyes are off somewhere else. So that's just three poses, basically. It's just like that, then that, and then that. And then Richard Williams of the Animation Survival Kit will tell you that it's how you get between those poses that is almost the more important part of animation, you know? To go from here to here, there's a whole lot of things you can do. In the end, like, my acting choices were not like particularly outrageous. They're literally just putting the hands up, but you can even tell that like I've made the decision to have one arm start coming up before the other one does, just for a little bit of variety, because it's quite easy to make animation look robotic. So that was the reason I made that decision. So from that rough, I will do that as quickly as possible, make any changes, and then I do the tie down, which is where it starts to get a bit more clean. So this is what I did here for the tie down. You can see the first frame is like, you know, not too different from the rough, but I think by the time I got down to the second frame, I decided that he just didn't move enough in my rough. There just wasn't enough movement. It was a bit boring. So I actually decided to pull him down a bit, angle his head down a little bit more. So you can see there. The other thing is you can see this is sort of the final poses here, but he does a bit of a bounce. He kind of moves so quickly, he bounces back a little bit. Tiny bit of animation there, just between there and there. You can see his bounce. Boom. It's barely noticeable. But yeah, this is what I did. I did the tie down. It got quite a lot more complex with the scarf there. You can see. I think I actually made even more changes in cleanup to fix it a little bit more, but that's what I did there. What do the symbols mean? Asked Todd Toast. So, I said keyframes before, the main parts of your animation. I should have said that they are indicated by the circles. See the circles at the top here? Every time you see a circle, that is a keyframe. So if I was to start this again, I would literally like draw my little dude. And then I would draw another key here. Where is he? And he's like, ooh. Beautiful. Yep, and that's my second key. So here's a circle, first key, second key, and then, you know, your final key. Where he's like, ugh. And then again, it's got a circle. So at this point, ignore all this. I just have 3 drawings here. This drawing, and this drawing. From there, you add your breakdowns, which is sort of the most important in-between drawing between each of these keys. And this is really the breakdown. That one drawing is how you dictate how the character is going to move. This is probably honestly not the best example to show you a good breakdown, to be fair, but if I find my breakdown, it is here. So I decided that this was going to be the drawing between like this one and this one. Where is it? Here. So this is, you do a one line across to indicate that this is your breakdown. I just realized this is probably a bit more complex than it should have been, because I think you can see I'm actually working in different layers, different levels at different timings. That's really confusing. You can ignore that a bit. The important thing is that you draw circles when you do your keyframes. When you do your first drawing between them, the breakdown, you do a single line. And then once you have your breakdowns and your keys, you can kind of get a good idea of how he's going to move. And you basically start adding all of your other drawings in between. This is where things get kind of a bit more tedious. What does breakdown mean? I mean, I don't know where the word came from. I don't know the etymology, but all it means in animation is it is just literally the break between your keyframes, between your main points of movement. It's sort of the frame that shows you how someone will move from one frame to the next. So if I was like here and I'm really happy and I see something that's really depressing, so I'm like yeah, and then the next keyframe is like, oh. There are so many ways you could go between them, and so your breakdown is how you figure that out. Like maybe I might go yay, and then I kind of start slumping down, but I'm still smiling, and then I go ugh. And so my breakdown might be like this, and so I'm like eh. Or my breakdown might be like maybe my face becomes sad and then I slump down. So my breakdown might be like just like, so it might be like ee. It's the breakdown that really is what decides, is the first most important point of contact when it comes to deciding how you transition from one pose to another. Yeah. Innerman Arts is asking about lip sync. It's a kind of a long. I don't think I'm going to have time to cover it today. Maybe in another stream sometime. And actually, I don't think I personally did any lip sync for this project. That was all done by the animated Dan. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't go into it this time, but hopefully sometime in the future. You're welcome for explaining. Yeah, that's a breakdown. And then between the breakdowns and the keys, you basically throw in a bunch of these smaller drawings. And at this point, these drawings are they're dictated by your keys and your breakdowns. So there's less like thinking involved. You're like, okay, I'll just do a drawing between here and here and here and here and here. One thing to really think about though is that you've got these arcs. So when this hand is coming up, it's not just going, straight up there. You can see this line, the way it's moving up. I even draw them in. You can see I draw them in. Like this is the way that the hand should be moving in this arc. So that's the tie down. Now so I actually started the tie down for just the boy to get him right. And then I actually, on separate layers, I tied down some other parts of him. So I added a backpack. So again, I just went through the entire animation and added a backpack. It's very tedious. Berries, look, I added these berries. So again, what I'll often do is I'll turn down the opacity of the other layers like this. let me turn off the rough to make it a bit clearer. So say I'm animating these berries here, I'll just turn these down a bit so I know what I'm doing. And again, from the same place, I'll add my keys. I wanted these to look a bit dimensional. I think they look a bit better in cleanup, but yeah, I animated some berries. There's the backpack. Yeah, so once I've done all the tie down, sorry, I'll get to After Effects real soon, guys. Once I've done that tie down, I will move into cleanup. Maybe I did this shadow. No, yeah, I did the cleanup first. One thing I do in TV Paint, which I find quite helpful, is that I label my, I color label my layers depending on what they are. Up until now, it's all just been kind of gray because it's all like, you know, just rough stuff. But once I start cleaning up, you can see I start adding these colors. So just for me, for my own process, I've named, I know for myself that green just means lines. Every time I want to do cleanup and do lines, I'm making them green. It's just what I do. So you can see here, this is where the lines start to get very, I have to make them much, much cleaner. At this point, I'll pull the opacity of my roughs way down, my tie down, so that I can see what I'm doing. And so here's my cleanup. Same thing, I'm starting with the keys, then I'm doing the breakdowns, and then I'm doing the in-betweens, all based on the tie down. Yeah, so that's the cleanup. I think at this point I add the shadows as well. So one thing, okay, so shadows is an interesting one because I'm not always able to add shadows to my characters in the way that I did on this project. Basically, it's more time intensive and more costly to add these actual hand-drawn shadows. And you'll notice that in some of my work, I sort of fake it in After Effects. My ideal is to hand draw shadows wherever possible. Yeah. Astro92 asks, did you draw each in-between frame? How many frames is that between hands down and hands up? Good question. It looks like it's about 16 frames in total, this scene. Yeah. A lot of it is in twos. This is at 24 frames a second, so that is... you can actually see I'm going between working on twos and on threes. Threes is like anime style, where there's a bigger gap between each frame, you know, it feels a bit more jerky. And twos is like your more classic kind of animations, kind of like, you know, your Saturday morning cartoons in the 90s and stuff. And ones is really, really smooth movement. I had one really quick ones here, but a lot of the time people do ask me like, how many frames are you using? What's the frame rate here? The truth is that I'm always juggling frames. I'm like in this one scene, you can see this here, this is one, this here is on twos. In case anyone doesn't understand, when I say on twos, what I mean is that if I'm working at 24 frames a second, I hold the frame for 2 frames. So I don't have to draw these 2 frames here and here, it's just held and then it'll change. So it'll do 2 frames again, 2 frames again. These are all on twos. At this point, the movement's actually getting slower, so I feel like I can move into threes, which is where there's a longer gap between each movement. See if you can notice. It's quite hard to notice, but you can kind of see it, that right at the end the animation gets a little bit more jerky. And for me, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to spend a million years animating this scene super smoothly. It just looks kind of anime-ish. How do you figure out the shadows? Asks Animated Athlete. I start with a light source. So, and I also did this for the animators as well, where every scene I kind of drew a little drawing, which is like the light is coming from. In here, it looks like it's sort of like this. Like that. Where is it? It's heading down. It's kind of mostly lit from above, but you kind of have to start with like, you know, where is the light coming from? And it's important to be consistent from the start of your animation to the end. Yeah, so it's something like this. And so that's the starting point. And then I think I actually maybe even started off by blocking the shadows and colors to make it easier for me. Let's see if I can find that. Is it in tie down maybe? Oh yeah, what's this? These are my first roughs. No, maybe they were just lines. No, doesn't look like it. But essentially I'm Shadows are hard. 2D shadows are hard because it really does just require like a pretty good understanding of like form and perspective. Same thing though, where like I think I do start like, let me just quickly show you something, right? I'll just maybe fill in these shadows to give you an understanding. Shadow, where are you shadows? Here we go. So basically these lines look a bit confusing right now, but what they really are is the shadow is just here. Like I know in my head that, I'm sorry, that's not the right place. I know in my head that the shadows are around like that, through there. It's very complex on this scarf. Like it's not, this is one of the more complex kind of characters of shadows, but you can kind of get a sense of what we're getting here. At the end, I'll show you the filled in lines, but it's something like that, you know? Yeah. I'll show you the filled in shadows, you can get a sense of it. There we go, once they're cleaned up and colored, that's how they look. Yeah. I think shadows, maybe I wasn't doing it back then, but I tend to make them blue these days. And then I add colors, so these are the colors. Yeah, let me pull this into After Effects for you. I've spent a long time here, so how long did it take you to finish this shot from start to finish? I do keep track using a app called Toggle of how long it takes me to do anything, like any shot, animatics, blah blah blah, just so I know for future. This shot would have taken me definitely over a week, I think. I don't think I'm a particularly kind of fast animator. But again, I was doing everything. It was animation, it was cleanup, it was tie down, it was color. Someone says, what do you prefer, 3s or 2s in animation? It totally depends. I mean, I think if I could animate everything on 2s for real fluid animation, yeah, that's great. But there's also a charm to 3s and to kind of anime style movement. So I like 3s as well. I think it's actually quite fun to jump between each of them. And I don't think there's like a right answer. Do people use 2s, 3s, and 1s in the same project, if that makes sense? Yes, absolutely, a lot of the time. And in this project, I think I said before, you can see how many frames each of these are held for here. You can see this is 2, 1, 3, 4, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So yeah, totally. Jump between 3s and 2s. Do what feels good. It's great. And shadows are overlay on color, yeah. Let's pull this guy into After. I'm going to pull this guy into After Effects for you. I'm going to show you how I actually get the stuff into After Effects from TV Paint. So what I do, I used to export like each of these layers as a separate sort of PNG sequence until like a year ago or something. I was like, I realized you can just export it as a different kind of file, like a single file called a JSON. So what I do is I click Export to Project Display, and I export it as a sequence, as a, maybe I'm in the wrong place, sorry, it's in display. I can do this. Where's my JSON? No, here it is, layer structure. I can do it. You're not the boss of me. JSON, that's what we want. Yeah, thanks for the comment on the asymmetry of the movements. I think that's quite an important thing in animation, to not have everything move at the same time. It makes things feel less robotic. So what I would do is I would export this as a JSON file, find a place for it. So let's just create a junkie. Junk.
Nothing and yet everything felt real.
Come on. OMG. That's not OMG. OMG junk. And then you export it, and it basically just exports everything. Exports the timing of these frames. It's actually quite efficient, because rather than exporting the same frame twice, it'll export it once, and then it will put it together in a way in After Effects that where the timing is correct. So it will hold certain frames for as long as they're held in TV Paint, which is really clever. I can't give you an exact answer for how long the scene took right now. Sorry, I'd have to look into it. I'd say definitely over a working week. I don't know how many hours. I don't want to give you an answer in case I'm totally off. It was a long time ago actually that I animated this, sometime last year. When you're drawing the next frame, are you making the previous frame less opaque so you can draw in the next bit of movement? I'll just answer this one more question before moving into After Effects, which I know some of you guys are really keen to get to. So there's onion skinning, which is where you can see the previous and the next frame as you're animating. Often when I'm animating, let me pull in like this tie down. Making the previous frame less opaque so you can draw the next bit of movement. Well, I start with the keys, and let's say I'm drawing this bit here. I'm gonna kill this frame, right? There's nothing here. Now I could just go between the frames and just try and draw the in-between. You know, it's gonna be like, get on my black brush. You know, it's gonna be like, at this point I'm just trying to get a line that's between the two, basically. You know, this is my in-between. Maybe the eyes start opening. So that's a way you can do it, but I do onion skin, which is where I can just press Ctrl-L, and that just lets you see the previous and the next frame. And in onion skinning, you have the option to make those frames less or more opaque, so I could really pull these down if I wanted to. Make them really not too invasive. Often I have it quite low. I'll have it something like this, and then I might draw. Now it's a bit easier, like I'm like, oh, I can basically just put a line between there and that's fine, right, easy, done, yeah. Wow, movement. It's the magic of animation. How do you keep the line smooth and not pixelated? Work at a high resolution in TV Paint, or work in a program that is vector-based. TV Paint is not vector-based, it's raster-based. So you basically, if you're working in a low resolution, then it can bite you in the ass later on. So I'm working with 4K here. Anyway, that's all you're gonna see from me for animation today. Yeah, let's get this boy into After Effects. I'm gonna close that, and I am not gonna save. Okay, so here I am in the project. I'll just quickly show you how to import from After Effects. You come over to Lordy, where am I? Import, no. Oh, guys, I don't know how to use After Effects anymore. I'm really sorry. Yep, it's over. It's all over. Script. That's what it is. It's a script. Guys, it's a script. I figured it out. There you go. Okay, so I run... Sorry. Script. I run a script file, and this is a file that this JSON script is one that TV Paint actually has on the website. So here it is, ready to grab. I run that. My knowledge is fading all the time, trust me. I learn new things, and then other things just like fall out my ears. So I browse here, and let's find that silly thing I just did. I exported. Medium. I think it was an animation junk. So you'll see here, this JSON file is the one that I import, and what it will do is it will find all these frames. Okay, you can't see them now because it's looking for a JSON file, but in each of these folders is a bunch of frames basically on different layers. This stream, the stream should be available to watch after. Thanks for joining, and hello, and I'm gonna put this on. I'm sure I'll put it on my YouTube. So I've imported this now, and I have my guy. Or do I? Where's my boy? It's probably because I've got something on top that's killing everything. Yeah, I didn't do a good job of cleaning everything up before I exported it, but so like not everything is here from the final one. And yeah, anyway, the idea is that it's all here. You're welcome. I'm gonna look at that anymore. That's confusing. I don't think I've talked about Dan yet because I want everyone here to see his work because he is a mind-blowing man. Just very quickly. So Dan animated the majority of the scenes on this project based on my storyboards and with my direction, and he's just the man. Check this out, he posted it today. These are his, there's his tie downs. Go across and I can start to see his roughs and things. Earlier and earlier in the process. You can see he's using my background there. And this is like basically the first thing. Super, super rough. So important to be this rough at the start. If you're interested in animation, then 100% follow this man. He is gorgeous. So Blood and Rust is saying you watched a short documentary about Akira. If you recall, they talked about animation being on 1s or 2s. Seem to be talking about frame by frame. Could you explain this? Maybe a lot of that film was on 1s, which basically means that they did 2 or 3 times the work that you normally would do on an anime. It would have been at 24 frames a second, which means that as the characters were animated, I imagine this is not for every scene, but for maybe a bunch of the scenes on Akira, there was probably, a lot of like when that stuff is squishing everywhere and things are going wild. It basically means that you're drawing 24 frames for every single second of animation. If you're working in 2s, you only have to draw every second frame, so you're drawing 12 frames for every second of animation. And if you're working on 3s, which is what a lot of anime does, you're only drawing 8 frames for every second of animation. You're asking, I never understood how to put the ground in the animation when a character's running. I think it's easy, but I don't get it. It's not easy. Nothing is easy in animation. You don't have to feel bad. Nothing is easy. Ground. Oh. With a lot of these shots that had like moving backgrounds, I would render out the sort of the 3D movement of the camera, and I would give that to Dan, and he would animate to the camera. So essentially, I have a grid like you can see on my screen right now. So there'll be a grid which helps you to see, like say you plant a foot, you animate a foot landing, and you've got the background which is moving. In the next frame, the background's moved back here, so you know that this foot which is planted has to move back to the same point on the grid. For us, that worked. That made things easier then. I'm really sorry that I've gone on this long and I've barely touched After Effects. I do apologize. Would anyone want to keep going past 10 minutes? 10 minutes from now is when I plan to kind of stop, but I'm happy to keep going if anyone wants to keep going with me. I'm totally down for that. So let me know. That's right. I start with the camera and then the animators animate onto the mock-up of the camera. Cool. A few people want me to keep going. I'll keep going. Yeah. All right. What have we got? Did I send you? Yeah, I sent you Dan's Instagram. He's amazing. Go check him out. Let's look at compositing. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the shot that I had before, that boy, and I'll show you how I composited it. Here's the shot. Oh, hello. What's this? I will be working like on a fairly complex scene, so you'll have to bear with me. Some of it's going to go a bit slow. You can see it sort of slowly rendering. There's a whole bunch. I'll scroll down here to show you just like what's in the scene. There's compositions that like the animation for this guy is in a composition, a separate one, which is on top here. The snow, there's like 5 different layers of that snow falling. There's probably lights in here. There's different elements of the background. I'll lead you through it. We can start from the start. You can watch the next bits later, that's fine. Thanks for joining. If you have to go, you gotta go. Do it. No problems at all. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, let's pull this back to basics. I'll take us to the actual guy where he starts, and then I'll strip it back to what it would look like when I first pull it into the scene. So I'm gonna turn off my lights. I'm gonna turn off some of these extra lights here. I think that's basically it. I think this is what it would have looked like based on the TV Paint sequence that I had just shown you. Pull it into After Effects, and here it is. I think this shadow is maybe a multiply. Let's have a look. Yeah. So that's multiply. The way it works with these JSONs when I'm importing from TV Paint, it's actually turning each of these into their own little pre-compositions. If you don't know After Effects, it's everything is made up of compositions. They're like, think of them as sort of separate little films that you're like, or like almost like folders. So if I go into one of these compositions, it's almost like a folder that has something else in it. So it's just the shadows. And this is actually, you call it nesting compositions. If a composition is in another composition, it's nested. And the reason you do this rather than having like everything in one composition, like all of my frames, is that it can just get very complex. Like I could have done that, but then this shot would have just been absolutely like loaded with layers. It's a bit easier when they're organized this way. How do you decide what you animate in After Effects and what's in TV Paint? Like you could do snow in After Effects. Yeah. For this it depends from project to project, but I wanted to do the majority of the character animation in TV Paint or in 2D software because I wanted to have the feel of like a classic kind of anime or cartoon, you know? So in this project, all the characters are basically animated in TV Paint in 2D, but there are definitely some 3D elements, or some After Effects animated elements. For instance, this eyeball, if I can find this eyeball for you. Is this guy? Yeah, here we go. This guy is entirely After Effects animated out of a few layers that I painted. So there are actually some fairly complex things I'm doing here where I basically animated a few things for one eye and then imported that eye into different scenes and animated them on top of that to get the final look. I'm not going to go into that today, but yeah, the answer is maybe on this project there were some more background elements that I animated in After Effects and all the character stuff was done 2D. Also snow, that is stock footage. And I will say that if you are able to get at stock footage, if you're able to find stock footage somewhere, then it can be super helpful in your animated films. Maybe like 2 years ago, I subscribed to a stock footage website called Storyboards, and it's been just like absolutely invaluable for me. I can like really quickly show you my stock library just to show you how much stuff I have in there. I've got a stock footage folder here. Look, I've got explosions, I've got film grain, fireworks, glitch effects, just so much stuff here, which just saves me so much time. Like snow. Look, these are all my snow stock footage bits. So essentially, when I came to doing these scenes, I was like, well, there's no point me going in and definitely not hand animating snow, but even creating like particle effects and stuff, I was like, no, I'm just gonna get some stock footage, it's faster. So I went to the website, I downloaded some on my license, and then I went from there. Do you ever turn on the motion blur in After Effects? Or does it look janky with such complex images? Again, it depends on the project. On this one, yeah, on this one I do have motion blur, and it's totally fine. I think I can show you like a couple of like real quick instances of it. I think this, when he turns to see Sasha, you'll see like some pretty heavy motion blur. What the? Oh yeah, there you go. Let's have a look. It's in this scene here. So yeah, you can see motion blur there. But yeah, often with characters, I don't want to have too much motion blur. Sometimes I'll turn the motion blur off a character because I want that kind of crisp Spider-Verse style, you know? I'll share a link to Storyblocks. It's, again, if you're like a student or something, it's maybe not like cost effective, but I think it's something like, Lord, like £200, £250 a year, which for me, and in all the projects that I do, is 100% worth it. If you're a student, it's a bit of a harder sell for sure, it's a lot of money. But this is the link, I can quickly show you it. So what I would do is I would just like jump in here, I'd be like, I need snow, search for snow. And then, you know, all this stuff will come up, and it's all on my license. Like, there are some stock places where like you pay for individual shots, but the great thing about Storyblocks is that literally everything on their website is licensed to you as long as you have that yearly license. And another good thing is that when you if you stop subscribing to their license, you still own everything that you've downloaded from there. So if you wanted, you could subscribe for 1 year, just fill a couple of like data banks of like stock footage that you think you're going to need later on, and never spend another cent, and it would be fine. Yeah, so Storyblocks is really great, for me at least. Oh yeah, I link it twice just for fun. There you go. Yeah, so that was the snow. Go back to our boy. Okay, so we've got our shadow layer, which again was done in 2D, so it's already been finished. It's set to multiply. So one thing that I do, and I don't know if everyone does this. I think at least on some older kind of animated shows, what they would do is that they would come up with these characters, do the character designs and the model sheets, and then they would have to figure out what the colors look like for different scenes. Like a nighttime scene, obviously you're not going to have a bright character, or like if you're in a magical crystal layer, you're going to have more blues on the character than you would otherwise. But what I do is that I always design my characters in neutral colors, as if it was just a bright white ambient light, right? So if I take off the shadow, you can see this character is just, he could be kind of anywhere. He's basically just standing in front of a bright white light. And what I do is that I actually start by lighting them in After Effects to the scene that they're in. So what I'll do actually, I'll pull this guy up and I'll create 2 views for you. I'll open up another viewer. What program do I use? Right now I'm in After Effects, which is how I composite. I use TV Paint for 2D animation, After Effects for my compositing, and also some kind of puppet animation. So what I'll do is I'll pull up my scene. This is my final scene here. It's got a little lock to say that it'll always stay in this scene. I'll jump back to my boy. My boy! And then I want to make him his lighting fit the scene. So you can actually see I've got 3 lights here. I'll turn them on quickly to show you. It's not drastically different from what it was before, but you can see there's a bit more subtlety here. So to do this, I will always start with an ambient light. It's just the light that just affects anything. It's not like in a certain part of his body. It's just covering all of him. You can see I'm actually starting dark. So I'll always start a bit dark with, and I think this is probably a kind of a blue light here. Here we go. It's ambient light, slightly blue. And the way I think about this is that he's going to be getting a lot of blue light because he's surrounded by a lot of snow and sky. I'm trying to think now, was the sky even blue? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I messed up. I don't know, guys. But I think the same goes for most animations. You'll be working with characters that are often lit by the sun or the sky. And especially on a sunny day, the sky is blue, and so that means that the ambient lighting you'll get is blue as well. So anyway, that's why it's blue. I add this light. Here we go. I add the light. Everything gets darker. Then I add another light, which I'm calling Sunlight 4. Put it in here. You can see that's where it is on the screen. It's a point light. So whereas the other one was an ambient light and it's just lighting everything, this one is actually directing. Its light is around here and it's fading out as it goes down. You can see I can up the intensity or lower the intensity. But basically I found an intensity that I thought worked quite well. It was 75%. And this is a yellow light. Again, it's kind of to give the impression of the sun. So you've got the blue ambient light, which is kind of like the snow bouncing the sky. And then I've got a slightly yellow light to indicate the sun that's in the sky. So I've added that. In here, you can see in your transform, you can change the position. So if I wanted to, I can have it from over here. You can see the final updating. But again, I've figured out which way he's being lit from. You saw that arrow before. He's being lit from the sun up this direction. So that's where I'm going to put my light. And then for this one, I added another little light, just a little one on his face, for almost to add a little bit of extra depth. In each of these, I'm going through, and I'm also kind of changing the radius of the light. How far the light falls. And these are all things that I usually just tweak by messing around with until they feel right. I knew that I wanted a fairly subtle gradient on this character. If it was not subtle, a lot of the time with this kind of lighting, it has to be subtle, because if it's a really obvious, if there's not much of a gradient, it becomes very clear that there's just a flat 2D light being thrown onto his face. So the impression I'm going for here is using these drawn shadows to really get the form of the character. And then I'm in a more subtle ambient way, I'm using these lights to kind of fortify the ideas, which is that there's a sun over in this direction that there's this blue skylight. And again, this one here is just like a cute little light in his face, just to make him feel a little bit more depthy. So that's how I start with these lights. Then what I have to do though is, because of course the character will move, and this is where things get a little bit complicated, because I have to move the lights to go with them. I didn't have to move this main sunlight because the character didn't move that much, but as this final light, the sunlight 5 here, was literally meant to be kind of like a face light, I'm having to move this one down with the character. So that's something that I do when I work on these characters. I'm moving lights around to stay with the characters. So let's see how that looks with the lights. Cool. Okay, so that's usually where I start with lights, and then I move on to sort of bounce lights or rim lights. Let's see if I can find these for you. So this is one of them. This is one I don't normally do, and I'll explain why in a second. This is one that I do normally do, which is like a little rim light. Again, the way you think about these lights should be based in reality. You should be thinking to yourself, like, what environment is the character in, and how does that affect the light, the way that he's lit? So with this rim light here, it was literally like, well, there's a lot of bright yellowy white light behind him. This building is right there, and so I think it kind of makes sense to have this little rim light on here. Now, the way that I do this, can anyone guess how I get this light? You have 10 seconds. This way of shading helps a lot since colors suck sometimes. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And for me, it's a lot easier to light stuff with lights than to try and just figure out colors. It's way faster for me. I really like it. A mask. You say, do I do this with a mask? I do use a mask for it, actually. You can see the mask there, which is a part of the process. But this is kind of like an inner glow on the character, actually, done in After Effects. Make a mask from the character, then offset it. Absolutely, that is pretty much what I'm doing here. I'll start off with like the easy way. I'll explain that one because that is, well, easier and quicker, and it's how I did things a lot, for quite a while, until I found this other method, which is a bit more tweakable, I think. So I'll go to my color layer, which is this one here. Yeah, that's my color layer. So the really easy way to do this is just to go to layer styles, add an inner shadow. So these are the options for this inner shadow. At the moment it's black, which doesn't make any sense for a light. If I pushed it down, you can see it's... So sometimes I'll use this actually as a shadow, like, again, I don't always have the time or the money to create these like beautiful cast shadows in TV Paint, drawn ones, so I'll have to fake them. Sometimes I'll use this as a shadow. I'll blur it a bit, I'll make the size bigger sometimes just to make it feel a bit more, natural. The only problem, of course, is that like the further you go in, the more of a shadow you make, the less realistic it's going to look, because of course, you see all this, it doesn't know the form of this character. It's literally just treating it as a flat object and casting a shadow along all of these edges. That's all it's doing. So it's pretty dumb. It's not like any kind of AI thing. It's just going bleh, putting a little shadow in there. So I know this as a compositor. I'm like, there's a point that I can push this to and no further. Otherwise, it will look wrong. For this rim light, I don't want it to be a shadow. I want it to be a light. So I'll change this to screen rather than multiply, and I'll give it a color. It was like yellowy. So if I do this, like that's basically there. That's I can change the opacity. I can make it really bright if I want. This whole time I'm going back to this main frame, the main comp, so I can see how it works in the scene. You should never like do stuff like this without always having an eye on how everything is affected in the final shot. I might pull it, make the distance a little bit closer so it's not as janky. There we go. That's basically the same. I don't even need to show you the other method. This is fine. This is great. I can show you the method. It's pretty helpful. Anyway, that's just one way of doing it. I'll turn that off. This other way, is definitely more complex, and that is maybe I'll do it from scratch to show you. I just copied this comp, so I've got this new color layer over here, right? And so it's on top of the shadow, so it's kind of ruining that a bit. I'll show it, don't worry. So, by the way, I have a little document just for myself. Every time I discover something in After Effects that I want to remember for the future, I'll just throw it into my own little document. So this shadow is one, like this technique I'm about to use is one that I have written down because I always forget how to do it. So, it's good just to have a note of these things. Okay, let's get going. So rather than using layer styles, which kind of screw your masks up. One second. Let me just explain why we're doing this. Why we need something a bit better than what I just showed you. So the problem with what we just did is that it will affect the entire body, all of the body, and because it is a layer style, which After Effects kind of doesn't cooperate with that well, it means we can't mask off some of it. Often when I'm doing a scene like this, I want like a rim light that's like maybe just casting a little bit over the head, a little bit of the arm, or maybe like the lower part of the body's in a shadow or something, so I don't want the rim light to be there. And that's kind of impossible with the technique I showed you before. So here's how I get around that. So what I do is I've copied that. I'll go to drop shadow in the effects. Now the difference between this and what I just showed you is that this is not a layer style. This is actually like a classic After Effects effect. Don't ask me why there's a difference. I don't 100% understand it, but so if I push the distance, here we go. You can actually, it's a bit hard to see because the background is dark, so I'm going to change that. Let's make it like grey. So right now you can see this shadow is here. I'm going to make it full opacity. And I think this will actually act as my mask for the shadow. So I've done that. I put shadow only on. Bam. Now it's just the shadow rather than the actual image there. If I was to solo this, you can see it's just the shadow now. If I turn that off, it's the original comp plus the shadow. Now it's just the shadow. Cool. So we have our shadow. It's really scary. Now what I'll do is I will invert. Again, go back to our effects up here and invert. Get out of the way. Invert channel. Cool. Now what we want to do is we want to choose alpha. We want to invert the alpha. So it's getting a bit weird. But basically at the moment it's the anti-shadow. So you can see I've actually pushed the shadow further down from his body. If I go into this drop shadow, you can see the distance is a bit further down. If I put the distance at 0, it'll be a shadow all around him, but I've pushed it down. And you'll see why in a second. Cool, we've done that. And now the final piece of the puzzle is the CC composite. What that does is, it's basically what it's going to do is it's going to composite the original shape that it started with, the color that you see there, the guy, and then it will basically use that as a mask for this shadow. If I click this, and then I make this, instead of in front, I make it, I think, stencil alpha. Told you it was complex. And now it is a shadow, and it's using the guy as the mask. And after all of that, we've got one. We did it. What I'll do is I'll change the angle of the shadow, so it's like our light source was coming from the top right, so I'm going to kind of make it down the bottom left. And put my distance down here. At the moment, it's not too different from what we did before, with the only difference is that we can now use masks. I'll make it a bit softer, so I'll push the softness there. Okay, I've got that. Now I think I can actually, so what I'll do, I think I can actually mask that on its own, but I'll show you what I actually do. Okay, well, you can't do that. Ignore what I just said. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull our little boy back. I'm going to get another comp. I'm going to copy that comp. It's just the default kind of color comp. And I'm going to use that layer that we just made, the shadow layer, as a mask for our color comp. So I'll go in here, I'll choose track matte, and I'll make the one above it the alpha matte. So now it's using the shadow layer there. So what's it actually doing now, just to make things confusing, it's using this shadow here, right? But it is, it looks like it's underlighting, and the reason for that is that it's literally just the same colors that you saw to begin with, but because it's on top of these shadows, because it's on, if I turn these shadows off, you won't even see it really. You won't see it because it's literally just the colors that it started with. But because these shadows are here, you can see it's you know, it looks like an underlight. And that's pretty great. That's kind of what I wanted for this shot. I think originally I actually used this, where is it? Go to my effects. Where are you? I think it was more like that. It was like coming from above. Distance was down a bit, you know, something like that. And also, I'm gonna make this a screen layer. And now it's light. There you go. So you see that? And now, after all that hullabaloo, I can mask it. Yay, this is what I wanted. This is what we're doing. Love it. And yeah, Adobe is always ruining everyone's pockets. I agree. So I've got mask. If I just want like kind of the top half of him done, I'll feather that mask so it's not so extreme. And yeah, hell of a lot of work, but again, it's a bit more elastic. You can do a bit more with it this way. Yeah, that's that. And now I'll show you actually how I used it in the final thing. So this was that kind of yellow light from above. You can see almost cast from those buildings in the background. And again, this underlight. This is not something I usually do, this underlight, but I figured for this scene that he's surrounded by very bright snow. And so it was just a case of like, well, it's cheap and easy to do in After Effects, like drop shadow from beneath. I'll just make kind of a whitish, bluish drop shadow. And I think that's basically it. Again, it's just these lights, ambient light and two lights there, and then these sort of drop shadows, which is how I composite characters. And I've been using this method for, I don't know, a year or two, and it's pretty cool. I don't know if anyone else does it this way, but it's how I do it. I'll go back to our guy. As I said before, this is these snow layers. These are actually all in 3D, you'll see. These little boxes indicate that we're in 3D. We've got a camera here that is slowly moving towards him, I believe. Again, it's really slowly, but it's just like a nice little bit of movement there. In the final film, you can see it's just constantly zooming in, and this as like the tension builds, and it's getting closer and closer to the characters until we're like right on Sasha's face as she's just freaking out. So in 3D space, I can actually go look at this guy from above, maybe. Let's see, what have we got? So my character, can I put test cam on? Don't even have a test cam. You can see the snow is not actually on the same plane as my character. I think my character is, where is he? He's right here. You can see him here from above. This is an aerial view. You can see the snow. These are all my snow layers. So they're actually slightly behind and slightly ahead of the character. And what that does is it just means that as we have this very slow push into the character in 3D space, the foreground snow is moving slightly faster than the background snow. So it's just like a very subtle parallax effect. And wherever possible, I try to have this parallax effect from shot to shot, just to make it feel a bit more alive, a bit more real. Yeah, that's, I mean, obviously there's like so much stuff I can talk about with compositing, but that's kind of how I light a character. Also, I use this wiggle expression on the camera. What this means is that it's on the position of the camera. I write this, wiggle, in brackets 115. What that means is that every 1 second, randomly, the camera will like slightly jiggle by about 15 pixels or so, which is not very much, but it's like randomly wiggling very slightly just to give you a sense of almost like a shaky cam look. A lot of these things are things you would not actively notice watching an animation or a show, but this is similar to what I was saying earlier on, which was that wherever possible I like to replicate true cameras in real life, like real live action films, in ways where things feel a little bit more unsteady and a bit more ad hoc and It gives this realistic flavor. Some animations really work well by going, no, this is an animation and we're gonna be fully unreal and we're gonna do whatever we want, because we can do that. I think my preference often with my work is to go, no, let's try and make this reminiscent of live action in a way. Okay, yeah, that's a whole bunch of stuff. Do you all have any more questions before we wrap up this stream? I will say, I said this earlier, but After Effects looks insanely complicated if you haven't used it, and I'm really sorry if you've come in here and seeing After Effects for the first time, because it's so much to take in at first. And but it's one of those things. You start small, and you learn little bits and pieces along the way. I'm always looking at YouTube tutorials on After Effects. You can't get enough of those. Could you cover the backgrounds on this shot? Yeah, backgrounds. I haven't really talked about backgrounds a whole lot. I haven't really talked about Nevena's actual technique. Let me delve into my folders here for you, and we can find the backgrounds. I'll show you some stuff. I'm glad you liked it, Random Dragons. I appreciate that. Really, again, it's just, this is how I do things, and I thought it'd be cool to share a few of my processes. Here you can see Nevena's mock-ups for the backgrounds, and she's working in 3D in Blender. I think a lot of the stuff she has in here, she did not sculpt by hand. She basically bought as a 3D asset on a store. And the reason for that is just because it would have taken absolutely forever, basically. The bigger your budgets are, the more you can spend time doing stuff. And this wasn't one of those projects where Nevena had months to work. So she actually got her work on the backgrounds done really, really fast. So her process was she went into Blender, she bought some of these asset packs, she started smooshing them together and resizing them and changing them and updating them. She based this funny asset here on, I think, a rough sketch of mine, which she turned in... No, actually, this was something that she created as a concept art, and then she turned it into 3D. So this is where she started, and she created these. And then I'll show you what she came up with. Wait, what else have we got here? This is her sort of flying around and looking at everything. Some feedback I gave on the shot angles. This is the world from above. Again, just trying to figure out how these might look in 3D. I can open up some of her backgrounds in Photoshop and show you what she did. And these are the final backgrounds, which are just beautiful, just beautiful. Let me find some of those backgrounds for you. What should I look at? What have we got? Why not this? BG020B combined. Okay, I'm gonna open this up in Photoshop. Oh, glad you learned something, thieved. Really appreciate you saying that. Cheers, man. I say man. Cheers, whoever you are. Yeah, and if anyone else has any other questions, quick things or whatever, I can try and cover them. Oh, don't see my secret project. Don't look. It's probably fine. So let's go back to the 3D on this one. What have we got? A smart object. Rats! This isn't what I wanted. Let me find another picture for you. Whoa, this is how I built that falling... This is how I built that falling object right at the start. I built it in Blender and then textured it myself using some of Nevena's paintings she'd already done. What should I do? Frame 2, CO20B. Pardon me. Where are my After Effects? My Photoshop files. Frame 2, oh that's a PNG, okay. Ah, I've got a PSD folder. Should have started there. Okay, why not? Let's go here. Let's do this. No, wait, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do something else. What's that? Sure. Whatever. I'll throw something in. Let's see what we get. That I and AE was cool. Thanks. Oh man, yeah. I have half a mind to show you how I did that, but I feel like I'd have to remember how I did it. But it was I basically faked a 3D look on it by adding a bulge in After Effects. So basically I did the art in 2D and then I added a bulge using the bulge effect. Oh, the word bulge is horrible. And then when I had the backgrounds and you see the eye, like maybe it's like a shot from above, I will like kind of move the bulge to make it, put it in the right place so that the eye looks like it's at the right angle. That's a really great way of explaining things. You're welcome. Let's go to Nevena's PSD here. I'll send you her work again just so you know who I'm talking about. Where is she? So this is Nevena's background. All based on what she did in Blender. Okay, so it's all in here. And so sometimes I was sort of like tooling around in these PSDs and making small changes myself as well. The thing about like artists generally is that like everyone has their own methods of working, so it's always fun like trying to figure out what is going on in someone else's Photoshop file on a live stream. But anyway, here's the render. And so you can see what has she done here? You know what, I'm not even going to try to explain this because there's so much happening. She added this mood in here, this sky, so she pushed... I think I ended up changing that one a bit to that final one. I know at some point she painted a bunch of like, a bunch of snow on top and stuff. I also find that when working in like compositing and in backgrounds, just adding big bold lights that fog out backgrounds can be really helpful in allowing you to really see the characters in the foregrounds very easily. So that's kind of why we have these really bright lights here. I feel like I'm not being very helpful with this thing, so I might move on. But anyway, basically from start to finish, she'll have this 3D asset and she'll paint a bunch of stuff on top of that asset to make it look hand-painted. Probably the coolest ones are when you see that. Even this, you can kind of zoom in. You can kind of see that it's actually a 3D model, but she's done a bunch of work adding like hand-painted elements to it and sort of like blurring stuff, adding her own grass to the 3D grass that's there. Very clever. Cool. I'm glad. Oh god, it's an eye. Yeah, that's kind of it for the backgrounds. There's like obviously a lot more I could cover, but I think it would probably require me having a think about how to best cover it. Do you all have any more questions about the medium or me or the approach that I took with this project? Shall I just wrap things up? More than happy to do that. You asked us to remind you about the 3D image. That's right. Thank you, and that's why I asked. Yeah, the 3D image. That was, sorry, remind me, that was the 3D, yeah, that's right, sorry, the camera panning around. Yeah, let me take you there. Let's try and find that. So I'm not going to open up Blender, but I will show you the PSD for that. What's up with this music? Why do I have... Is this Spotify? Oh no, my stream's gonna get... Oh no, it is my lo-fi hip-hop, that's fine. Whew! Just with the voices. Let me find this 3D scene for you. You're gonna have to give me a few seconds. I'll pull this down so you're not looking at nothing. And this is why it's important to label everything. I like to imagine the end of the stream is just like a slow fade of people dropping off as I just scroll endlessly through a... No, I know how I can find it. I figured it out. I'm going to take you to the scene in After Effects for a start. While I fast forward this song that has way too much dialogue in it. Let's find it. It's back here somewhere. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. It's when Sasha is looking around. Here we go. So, just a recap on what the scene kind of looks like. We've got the camera fully moving in a kind of a 3D space.
Keeping the peace.
See the camera turns. I'm going to open this up for you so you can see. Yeah, there's a lot of movement here. I've added all these eyes in After Effects, which are opening and closing. Yeah, so the image was exported from Blender and then painted over. I think from this I should be able to find the actual picture for you. Oops. Let me open up this file. Oh lordy, that's ugly. Oh, take me back. Where am I? Okay, that wasn't the one. This is the CC environment effect, which is how we're turning this flat image into 3D. You can see this effect is basically turning this image, which I will find. It's the image is it's pulling from is layer number 18. So let me find layer 18 for you. It's here. This here is the image it's pulling from, and you can see it is just a flat image. You can't really tell from here, but like things get really warpy at certain parts of a 360 image. But luckily, everything was in the kind of central plane and quite distant from the character, which meant that I was able to add these eyes and things without too much of a problem. So this background came from first Blender, exported from Blender in a 3D to 2D export, and then painted over by Nevena to make it look really pretty. And then I did some more stuff, adding fog and eyeballs and things like that. All my eye comps. What have we got? Probably find you. You can see all the extra shit that I added on top here. Yeah, so essentially, once you export from, oh my god, did I crash? What happened? Okay, I'm being locked out of social media. Do you know why? It's because I pay for it. I pay to be locked out of social media at certain hours of the day because it's too addictive. Limo Arts, you're welcome. I'm really glad that this has helped in any way. Yeah, cheers for that. Yeah, I'm not going to get too into depth here, sorry bud, but essentially you can export from Blender. I don't know how. Nevena has the magic, exports it as a flat image that you just saw, and then painted over by Nevena, and then shunted into this scene using CC environment. And once I'm in here, I can actually move the camera around for you just to show you how it looks. If I pull my camera controls out, so I can literally just turn all around. It's just taking that flat plane and it's turned it into this 3D scene. You can see we didn't paint all of it. Basically, we got the Blender output and we just chopped a bunch of it off because we knew we weren't going to need it. And then Nevena painted over. You can even see some kind of extra houses and stuff that were painted that weren't even featured in the final animation there. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's just a very cool way to have, again, a bit more depth, a bit more realism in what is essentially a 2D animated short. Yeah, I think I can put this on YouTube. I'll put this on YouTube, see if that's what people want. If you're keen for it, I can do it. No worries. Yeah, any more quick questions? Oh, sorry, is this the same effect that's used for Tao's shot when the camera is moving around him? I think so, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let me pull that up very quickly. This is when he gets grumpy.
Where is it?
Yeah, actually, this one originally I thought I was going to have to paint a separate background, but in the end I did this almost a little cheat where I did just zoom way the hell in on that background I just showed you and just moved around it. Like you can see here, it's like so low res because I've zoomed in this far, but it doesn't even matter because I've got motion blur on there. I mean, this is at quarter res, but even at full res, you'll probably see it's not, it's pretty blurry. Yeah, I'll throw this on YouTube. I'll throw this on YouTube for y'all. Yeah, I think I should wrap things up. So, again, thank you so much for coming and dealing with my very fractured kind of here's a bit of everything. Appreciate it. I'm trying to create videos as short as possible and because that's they're the ones that tend to interaction and people. So I need to just actually be here, just blabber on. I'm really glad that it helped you a lot in Yoga. That's really cool. Appreciate that. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Yeah. Have a lovely day and keep trying from life. Read Andrew Loom. Follow everyone. Actually send you a couple more Instagrams before I go, just real quick, because I covered some of the people involved, but not everyone. I'm going to quickly show you. Oh God. No, I've been blocked. I've been locked. It's too hard to get myself. Okay, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to follow up. I want you to go to my posts with the trailer, and I want you to find every one of those people that I linked to in the credits. Shashank Money, great animator, did some really fun stuff, a couple of shots. And Juliana as well, did all of the cleanup, almost all of the cleanup, and colors. And so she did a lovely job as well. Have a great time. I'll catch you guys later. Bye. Might do this again.